Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this last day of council meetings. We invite everyone to take your seats so we can begin. Thank you.
Buenos días. We're ready to begin. Can you please take your seats and invite those who are outside to join us? I don't see any Charori with us today. Oh, there you are. Okay. So thanks. I would like to open today's agenda with within the 36 LDCF, SCCF council meeting. I will proceed with agenda item number 5, progress report on the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. I would like to invite my colleagues from the Secretariat, Jason and Sola, to present document GEF/LDCF SCCF 36/05 progress report on the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. Before that, I would like to give the floor to Samantha Justin, council member from Antigua and Barbudas, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Cuba, Dominica, Dominican Republic, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago to briefly share her perspectives as a participant in the regional workshop for the Caribbean Sea that was co-hosted by the GEF Secretariat and the Dominican Republic country. Samantha, the floor is yours.
Samantha, you're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. Just give me a second. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, GEF Secretariat, for the opportunity to provide some insight into the workshop and ECW that was recently held for the Caribbean SIDS earlier in March in the Dominican Republic. Okay, I'm indeed pleased that the workshop was a very engaging and useful opportunity, not only for St. Lucia, but the rest of the Caribbean SIDS The $4 million available for its seeds under the SCCF is a critical part of our climate adaptation strategies aimed at reducing our vulnerabilities by enhancing our adaptive capacities. The workshop allowed countries to share the climate adaptation challenges while also profiting from the opportunity to share best practices and solutions to build our climate resilience. Through the information and skills gained during the workshop, participants were able to go through a practical session of designing a project that translates each country's adaptation priorities in line with GEF programming. Also, having the active involvement of CSO added much value to the project design process. Therefore, noting the significant value added through the workshop in strengthening SEED's capacities in project design and accessing the SCCF window, we would like to take this opportunity to call on the GEF Secretariat to organize such capacity building workshops on a more regular basis. I also would like to take the opportunity while I'm here to thank, on behalf of the rest of the constituency, to thank the donors who have also generously pledged to the SCCF. We note that 96% of the funds have been received, and for that we are truly grateful. Conversely, we note that the SCCF window B, which is focused on technology transfer, private sector engagement and innovation, still remains under-resourced. We therefore make a strong plea to countries to provide this critical support by pledging to the second SCCF window. As SIDS, we are all too familiar with the extent to which financing gaps severely diminish our national efforts to increase our adaptive capacity and protect the lives and livelihoods of the most vulnerable among us. So once again, I just want to say a sincere thank you on behalf of SIDS. And again, I call on the Secretariat for us to have these more regular types of activities in support of capacity building for SIDS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for this report. And with this, I would like to pass it over to my colleagues, Jason and Soda, for the progress, so they can present the progress report. Thanks, Jason. The floor is yours.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Muy buenos días. Thank you, Co-Chair, for the opportunity to present the progress report on the LDCF and SCCF, together with my colleague, Shola Ikufuriji. We will start with the Least Developed Countries Fund, or LDCF. The LDCF has continued to progress actively in terms of resources received, new approvals, and CEO endorsements and approvals. The financial summary presented in this slide is as of December 31st, 2023, as is reflected in the detailed progress report itself. The financial information summarized here is current as of December 31st, 2024. However, more recent information that was posted by the trustee just a few days ago for the period of January 1st to March 31st, 2024 is also conveyed here. Is also conveyed here for your convenience. All LDCF projects approved since the inception of this fund are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of 64.98 million people, improve the management of 11.50 million hectares to withstand the effects of climate change, and train 2.82 million people. Additionally, 3,453 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, and integrate adaptation strategies and measures. Since the GEF started tracking sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6, 46% of LDCF beneficiaries and 49% of people trained are expected to be female. Additionally, since the LDCF started tracking private sector engagement at the beginning of GEF 8, 1,544 are expected to be engaged in climate change, adaptation, and resilience action. LDCF projects continue to be focused on a range of sectors. Since inception, the most common sectoral focus of LDCF projects is on agriculture, followed by water, nature-based solutions, and climate information services. We will now turn to the Special Climate Change Fund, or SCCF. Enabled by a sharpened focus of the SCCF in the GEF 8 climate change adaptation strategy, we continue to be motivated by the renewed interest in this GEF managed trust fund. As was the case for LDCF, the financial information summarized here is current as of December 31st, 2024. And more recent information that was posted by the trustee a few days ago for the period of January 1st to March 31st of this calendar year, 2024, is also conveyed here for your convenience. SCCF projects are expected to directly reduce the vulnerability of 8.99 million people, improve the management of 5.28 million hectares to withstand the effects of climate change, and train more than 250,000 people. Additionally, 535 policies, plans, and processes are expected to be developed or strengthened to identify, prioritize, and integrate adaptation strategies and measures. Since the GEF started tracking sex disaggregated data at the beginning of GEF 6, 47% of SCCF beneficiaries and 40% of people trained are expected to be female. Additionally, since SCCF started tracking private sector engagement at the beginning of GEF 8, 80 are expected to be engaged in climate change adaptation and resilience action. SCCF projects are also focused on a range of sectors. Water, agriculture, climate information services, and nature-based solutions are the most common focus. I will now pass the floor to my colleague, Shola Ikufuruji, to deliver the rest of this presentation.
Merci beaucoup, Jason. Good morning, everyone. As you know, the GEF 8 programming strategy for climate change adaptation includes 3 complementary dedicated programs, all of which are indeed progressing well. In the interest of time, we will focus on the progress made in the first 2 dedicated programs. With the guidance of the Council, the GEF Secretariat has been actively strengthening the communications and visibility of the LDCF and SCCF. Building on the set of videos on the LDCF and SCCF produced in English, French, and Spanish, as well as a new communication strategy, a set of web articles were produced during this reporting period. These articles were created in partnership with various stakeholders to profile donor pledges and commitments, country projects and their impact. We also have some web articles on the showcases examples of innovation and private sector engagement through the Challenge Program for Adaptation Innovation. We also have articles on progress on the coherence and complementarity with the GCF and all the multilateral climate funds and the country outreach and capacity support. Importantly, shortly after this reporting period, and as was highlighted yesterday, we have hired and onboarded a new Senior External Affairs Officer, Mr. Nicholas Greenfield, who is fully dedicated and focused on communications and visibility of the LDCF and SCCF. Now to the second dedicated program, which focuses on strengthening outreach and capacity support for LDCs and seeds on planning and programming their LDCF and SCCF resources. We're pleased to report that we've made significant progress. A series of regional workshops and meetings have been delivered, engaging LDCs and SIDS to program their resources in GEF 8. The objectives of these workshops were to enhance country ownership, access, and project design for enhanced adaptation, ambition, and impact. We are delighted also that the GEF Secretariat closely partnered with the LDC group on these workshops. Also, the collaboration of the GCF is ongoing, particularly on the joint investment planning efforts in 5 countries. On Tuesday, you heard about the Multilateral Climate Fund Joint Action Plan, where there's an ongoing consultation on the draft, and it's expected by the COP29, a final draft will be approved by the heads of the Climate Fund. Now, the next slide just gives you a snapshot of some of the regional workshops that we have held. In addition to the workshops that were held for Francophone LDCs and the Asian LDCs, the Pacific LDC SIDS, 3 additional workshops were held during this reporting period, covering the 17 African LDCs, which had over 120 participants, the 15 Caribbean LDCs, with over 60 participants in Santo Domingo, and we're delighted to hear some wonderful remarks from Samantha Justin on this workshop. Finally, a virtual workshop was held for 11 Pacific, Indian, and Atlantic Ocean states with over 30 participants. Through these workshops, we are delighted to report that we have now fully engaged directly with LDCs and states, and are indeed very grateful for the active support and participation of the countries and partners. It has been a real pleasure collaborating on the strategy, programming of the LDCF and SCCF resources to maximize impact in addressing respective climate adaptation priorities. Now, for the final consideration in this, as a final consideration in this presentation, I'll briefly share the progress that we have made on the Inclusive GEF Assembly Challenge program, which you all know was developed in preparation for the GEF 7, the 7th GEF Assembly, to demonstrate GEF's commitment to engaging CSOs, indigenous peoples, youth, and local community groups in providing inclusive adaptation and environmental benefits. In February, earlier this year at the council, we reported that 23 winners from CSOs were selected to receive grants of up to $100,000 to expand their initiatives. For this reporting period, UNIDO, as a GEF agency, has developed 2 medium-sized projects funded through the SCCF and LDCF to transfer funds to the winners and create a global platform for cross-learning and knowledge generation. These projects have been technically cleared by the GEF Secretariat and are currently being circulated to the Council for a 4-week review. 2 additional winners may eventually be included through minor amendments once endorsed by the countries. So this brings us to the end of our the presentation and progress report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason and Paula. With these presentations, I would like to open the floor for council members for questions, comments, and clarifications. As we normally do, Noemi will be guiding the intervention of council members. Noemi?
Thank you, Chair. I see that the CSO network has requested the floor. Floor is open.
Thank you. The CSO network welcomes the detailed progress report on the Least Developed Countries Fund and the SCCF. We'd like to thank the continued commitment from donor countries, which has further been exemplified by 144 million placed at COP28. The commitment underscores the global recognition of the critical role these funds play in addressing climate vulnerabilities. We particularly acknowledge the approval of 17 new FSPs and the CEO endorsement of 10 additional projects during this reporting period. However, we must not lose the sight of ongoing challenges. The SCCF, despite its demonstrated potential and recent pledges totaling 35 million, remains under-resourced financially, particularly in areas such as technology transfer and innovation. We urge further support and contributions to fully realize the fund's potential and broaden its impact, especially in SIDS. Sitting in meeting rooms, which are colder than Everest might be in a few years, we all know the reality. We are in climate emergency. We also know that we must act now to support those most vulnerable and decrease the ambition gap. As we come closer to GEF 9 replenishment period, recent places are a step forward and commendable. We must accelerate our efforts. The intertwined biodiversity crisis also demands immediate action to protect the ecosystems that sustain all life on Earth. Let us unite in urgency and compassion to safeguard our planet and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else requesting the floor. Oh, Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We do appreciate the extensive reporting by the Secretariat and note the progress made. In light of a just and green transition, we wonder whether the Secretariat would consider making more efforts for the sector, small, medium enterprises and other private sector. While we urgently need a transition to a low carbon economy, we also need a just transition that is equitable and inclusive and that drives positive social impacts in which everyone can see an opportunity. It's also about creating decent work opportunities and leaving no one behind. We need to avoid jobs being lost, and we need new jobs in a new green economy that is inclusive. To create jobs, we really need SMEs, and therefore is our question to Secretariat and others to see where we can speed up those efforts. And most particularly for women entrepreneurs, women who own SMEs have the hardest time to access resources. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Sandra. We will now continue with Karen, followed by Kong. Karen, floor is yours.
Thank you, Noemi. Sweden welcomes the report. We see a lot of positive work being carried out by both LDCF and also SCCF. And we're looking forward to the work also being included in the IO's evaluations before GEF 9 as part of OPS 8. We have already from yesterday commented a lot on the work of the LDCF, so I'm not going to speak at length here, but I just wanted also to mention that the information that was shared on what is done now to enhance the visibility of LDCF and SCCF, I think that is very positive. And also, as we commented yesterday, with the lack of funds in both those funds, I think it's critical to increase the visibility of what the fund, good work that the funds are carrying out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now continue with Kong, followed by Emily. Kong, floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi. The Southern African constituency welcomes the progress report on the LDCF and SCCF. These two funds help communities of the LDCs and SEEDs to reduce their vulnerability through improved management of their landscapes for resilience against the effects of climate change, through training and developing and/or strengthening policies and integrating adaptation strategies and measures. We greatly appreciate the contributions made into the two funds and look forward to more pledges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now continue with Emily. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Noemi. Our constituency would also like to thank the GEF Secretariat for preparing this report, and we commend the good progress that have taken place under both funds. We know that since GEF 7, support to NAP formulation has been provided by the GCF, whereas the LDCF focuses on NAP implementation. However, since not all LDCs have submitted their NAPs yet, we would like to understand how the GCF and the LDCF are coordinating efforts to ensure that all LDCs finalize their NAP process. And in this regard, we would also like to know the status of the LDCs that have received NAP support from the LDCF, but have yet to publish their NAPs. Furthermore, we take note that 46% of the expected project beneficiaries are female. Has this trend been increasing over the years? And also, do you have data on the percentage for the actual project beneficiaries? And finally, we welcome the continued efforts under the GEF GCF LTV and would also in future council meetings welcome more information about the implementation progress under the 5 pilot countries in the joint investment planning program. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I don't see anyone else requesting the floor. So I'll get back to you, Jason and Shola, for some reactions. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, and thank you for the reflections and the questions from council members. Specifically on the importance of the just transition, thank you very much for highlighting the importance of SMEs and private sector engagement, and especially woman-owned and managed enterprises. Indeed, micro, small, medium enterprises is a major focus of both the LDCF and SCCF. And we're delighted that now private sector engagement or private sector companies engaged is a core indicator in the GEF 8 period. 1,544, for example, were supported in the LDCF to date in GEF 8. Of these, the vast majority are micro, small, and medium enterprises. And in fact, indeed, was a major focus of many projects in the work plan that was presented and approved yesterday. We'll continue that focus, including, and I would say especially, on women-owned and managed micro, small, and medium enterprises. Further, thank you for highlighting the importance of ongoing challenges and the importance of technology transfer and innovation, as well as climate adaptation priorities of small island developing states. Indeed, that is the sharpened and deepened focus of the SCCF, and we're looking forward to continue to deepening support in this area, subject to availability of resources, of course. On the importance of enhanced visibility, we take this very seriously. We appreciate the importance of this area, and we're delighted that we've been stepping up work in this area, including the hiring in this reporting period of a dedicated full-time staff member, Nick, who many of you have met, a senior specialist focused directly on this. We've seen the number of hits and traffic on the website and communications materials increasing in recent months, and with the dedicated staff member, we continue to see this increasing as per the strategy that's been developed and will be continuously adapted moving forwards. I'm going to, I'll add one point specifically in reference to the comment made on support for both formulation and implementation of national adaptation plans and planning processes, or NAPs. Thank you very much indeed. The collaboration with the Green Climate Fund is very active in this area, with the GCF having a specific window focusing on formulation of NAPs, and the GEF, LDCF and SCCF focused on implementation. That said, there has been support directly on from the LDCF and SCCF directly on formulation of NAPs, and some of the projects, when countries wish to do so, have some elements that are complementary to formulation and build on formulation. We have a strong coordination with the Green Climate Fund Secretariat to ensure no duplication and indeed synergies related to both formulation and implementation of NAP support. I'll pause there. Perhaps my colleague Shola would like to add, or other colleagues. Thank you.
I think just to add to the question and your response on the NAP formulation, we continue to work very work well with GCF on this. And in terms of supporting countries on map formulation, we have supported 9 countries so far on map formulation. We have spent over $60 million to that effect with countries. I think some of those countries were Chad, DRC, Guinea-Bissau, Djibouti, Laos, PDR, Rwanda, Sao Tome and Principe, Niger, as well as Senegal on their map formulation. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, please, yes.
Okay, good morning, colleagues. Just to provide a very quick feedback on the question from Emily on the LTV as well as five pilot countries. We did pull together a progress report on the LTV, and that was submitted as an information document that has been prepared jointly by the GEF and GCF. And I think it's fair to say quite a bit of work has gone into supporting pilot countries. In particular, we had in-person discussions as well as workshops with the GCF colleagues in Uganda. And we've also had some follow-up actions as well as planning discussions with the remaining countries. So that information tends to go into the progress report of the LTV, which is submitted to council on an annual basis. We also try to provide updates in the relations with conventions. I do take your point on matters related to adaptation, LDCF and SCCF. We can provide additional context in the progress report moving onwards, because this is also another element, not just LTV, but for the multilateral climate funds joint action plan. There's a lot to be said about actions being considered for the adaptation arena. So thank you for that comment.
So this concludes our list of speakers as far as I can see. So back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Noemi, and everyone for the participation and exchange. Having completed the discussion of this agenda item, I would like to invite the council to adopt the draft decision that is included in the document GEF/LDCF SCCF 36/05. I see no objections to it. It is approved. Thank you so much. With this, now we go to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 6, fiscal year 25 administrative budget and business plan for the Less Developed Countries Fund and the Spatial Climate Change Fund. I'll pass it over to my co-chair, who will be chairing this agenda item. Dauda, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon from Gambia. And thanks the presenters also for this wonderful presentation. Going on agenda item 06, I would like to call on Mrs. Chisiru Ayoki and Mr. Aloki Banwell to present the document GEF/LDCF SCCF 36/06 for the financial year 2025 or fiscal year 2025. So the floor is yours, Mrs. Chisu.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 2025 administrative budget and the business plan for the LDCF and SCCF. The document, which was circulated to the Council, summarizes activities undertaken in FY24 by the GEF Secretariat, the staff, the trustee, and the Independent Evaluation Office. It also presents the business plan for FY25 and the proposed budget to carry out the business. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. All right. This slide summarizes the activities undertaken by the GEF Secretariat in FY24. During the fiscal year, the Secretariat worked very closely with countries and agencies in formulating 2 work programs requesting over $400 million of LDCF and SCCF resources. I'm pleased to let you know that this is the highest programming of LDCF and SCCF since inception in one particular fiscal year. The programming focused on supporting LDCs and notably SIDS, which benefited from the dedicated GEF 8 SIDS financing window of the SCCF. The Secretariat continued to review projects, which resulted in CEO endorsement of 14 projects and approval of 36 PIFs. It participated in the UNFCCC COP in Dubai last year, the SB meetings, and responded to all the guidance that were provided to us. It also engaged in the 7th GEF Assembly in Vancouver, Canada last year, and among many things, it implemented the Inclusive GEF Assembly Challenge program, which was presented by my colleague in the previous session. Excuse me. The Secretariat implemented the dedicated programs under which 4 regional adaptation workshops were successfully conducted to build capacities of LDCs and SIDS in designing effective adaptation projects and accessing adaptation finance. We also enhanced our efforts on communication and visibility. And finally, we continued our collaboration with the Green Climate Fund under the LTV and also engaged with other multilateral climate funds to develop a joint action plan. This slide summarizes the business plan for FY25, which is the 3rd year of the GEF 8 period for LDCF and SCCF. We will focus our efforts on implementing the LDCF and SCCF strategy in the next fiscal year. In this regard, we will continue to reach out to countries, engage with GEF agencies, and advance the activities under dedicated programs. The Secretariat will organize 2 council meetings with work programs and relevant council document preparations. Notably, in FY25, the Secretariat will initiate the process of GEF 9 LDCF SCCF adaptation strategy development by engaging effectively with donors, recipients, experts, and other stakeholders through dialogues and workshops. The Secretariat will work towards greater integration of gender and inclusion in programming and outreach. It will also implement the challenge program for adaptation innovation, which focuses on strengthening engagement of private sector for innovative adaptation solutions. Finally, we will continue to engage with UNFCCC COP, implement the long-term vision with GCF, and work towards implementation of the joint action plan with the multilateral climate funds, which was developed in the current fiscal year. Yeah, apologies for the slide. The numbers are jumbled up a bit. The document is with you. For the LDCF, the total FY25 budget request is $5,179,378, comprising of nearly $4.25 million for GEF Secretariat, $590,000 for the trustee, $139,000 for staff, and $203,073 for the GEF IEO. For the SCCF, the total request is $1,755,614, comprising of nearly $1.3 million for GEF Secretariat, $130,000 for the trustee, $139,000 for staff, and $144,715 for GEF IEO. The FY25 budget for LDCF requested is 12.2% above the fiscal year 2024 budget. The fiscal year 25 SCCF budget is 9.2% above the fiscal year 2024 budget. The proposed increase in GEF Secretariat's budget reflects the staffing needs, the salary rate increase, as well as to better account for significant LDCF, SCCF business and demand in the overall share of GEF expenses. The IEO's budget for LDCF and SCCF shown in this slide will also be presented separately by IEO for Council's decision. This slide shows the share of the annual budget for the GEF Secretariat, that is for the dedicated programs, which is fairly significant, as you can see from the slide, at 42% for the LDCF and 19% for the SCCF. The budget request for dedicated programs and for the Secretariat's budget is well under the approved financial scenarios for the GEF 8 period, which includes total $9 million for Secretariat's budget and $8 million for dedicated programs. Given the significant share of dedicated programs in the requested budget, this slide provides some details on the activities which will be carried out in the fiscal year 2025 under the dedicated programs. Under the dedicated program 1, the GEF Secretariat will further strengthen outreach efforts in coordination with the GEF communications team, collaborate with GEF agencies and donors, and deliver communication and visibility outputs. Under the dedicated program 2, we will continue to build capacity of countries in developing quality proposals for LDCF and SCCF and strengthen their technical knowledge in selected thematic areas identified in the current fiscal year through various capacity building workshops that we presented. Collaboration with GCF and other multilateral climate funds will be central to these efforts. Finally, the GEF Secretariat will launch the dedicated program 3 on organizational learning and coordination, under which learning products will be developed among other activities. With this, I conclude my presentation and thank you, Co-Chair.
Mr. Co-Chair, I believe that you're in mute, so if you can unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Thank you very much.
We hear you now.
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much, Co-Chair. Thank you very much, Alok, for that presentation. I will now open the floor for council members for comment, and then I'll give the floor to Naomi to guide that process. Naomi, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Co-Chair. I'll now give the floor to Annette. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi, and good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to those that joined us virtually. Germany welcomes the 3 dedicated budget programs and the budget plans implementation efforts for the LDC SCCF strategy. Thank you very much for all the efforts that went into building this strategy. We further welcome the intensified outreach to donors, recipient countries, and other stakeholders to strengthen LDCF and SCCF support. And we also urge other donors to think about the contribution in order to keep this valuable work where we'd like to see it on the level we'd like to see. We support the increase in staff due to increased workloads associated with growth in portfolio and programming. We consider the resulting cost increases reasonable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette. I don't see anyone else requesting the floor. Richard, the floor is yours. Can IT help us to enable Richard's microphone, please? Okay, Richard, you're good to go.
Thank you. I just have a suggestion in relation to the decision text as currently proposed. The intention is to mirror the language we used for the GEF Trust Fund, that decision text to reflect the cost recovery. And a proposed approach could be adding the language we did for the other text, given to provide that clarity. I can read it out loud if that's useful, but it's the precise language we used for the other decision text, which reads, the council decides that in the context of the Secretariat's analysis, the level of 11% indirect charge as set out in, well, maybe we need to change in this document, is the upper limit for the GEF, provided sufficient justifications provided by the World Bank for this indirect charge. It is noted that the indirect charge for the GEF is expected to exclude the cost of certain administrative services to be provided directly by the GEF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. I will now give the floor to Sandra, followed by Tessa. Sandra, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We appreciate the work plan presented and the solid rollout of activities very much. And we're also very pleased to see that the Secretariat is engaging in international debates such as at G70, G20, and with other mechanisms such as GCF and the CIFS, the Adaptation Fund. We think it's very important, and also that the Secretariat is doing this in relation to these special funds. We think the budget is very solid, so we're ready to approve it. However, we have one remark and we would like to have that noted. We think that the cost shares that are referred to these funds are maybe a little bit on the high side, such as, for instance, the 10% cost share for the premises. As said, we will not block the budget over this, but we would like the Secretariat in the future to take a good look at it again and see whether the policy entirely justifies it. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I'll now give the floor to Tessa, followed by IPLC. Tessa, floor is yours.
Thank you, Noemi. We'd like to begin by welcoming the continued collaboration and coordination with other multilateral climate funds in efforts to increase both efficiency and impact. We also appreciate the efforts of the Secretariat to strengthen capacity and skills in LDCs and SIDS through workshops, trainings, and side events. The main issue we'd like to raise here is that the LDCF and SCCF administrative budgets for FY24 had significant underruns of 36% and 41% respectively. In FY23, we saw a similar pattern, with the LDCF and SCCF administrative spending coming in below the approved budget by 35% and 45% respectively. We are, of course, in favor of the efficient use of limited financial resources. However, given these repeated underruns, we were surprised to see the Secretariat propose an even larger budget for FY25. The LDCF budget request for FY25 is 175% of projected FY24 costs. The SCCF budget request for FY25 is 184% of projected FY24 costs. We understand that the proposed increases are largely attributable to a higher line item for staff costs. The request for the LDCF is 2.4 million, which is more than double the actual expenditures on staff in FY24. The SCCF budget similarly requests a nearly 2 times increase in staff costs. And we appreciate that the Secretariat has a significant task ahead of it, including in implementing the largest ever LDCF work program that we approved yesterday, and that this will require an increase in staffing. However, the budget document does not lay out in detail the staffing plan that would be supported by the requested budget. So we'd like to better understand how the Secretariat's vision for staffing up in FY25 would go, and how the Secretariat expects to execute this plan. It would be particularly helpful to see the information on changes in staffing costs that is in paragraph 26 of the report, broken out in greater detail. Finally, we'd like to second Richard's point on including Council's view on cost recovery in the decision text. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. I will now give the floor to the representative of Indigenous people and local communities, and then I'll give both Chis and Nalok some time to respond. So IPLC, floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much for presenting the LDCF funds. It's an absolute honor talking today, and of course, making a comment on two things which are deemed necessary. I would first of all like to ask about the inclusion of IPLCs in your work, which I know IPs are very much closer to this nature, which is very important for them to be engaged and get access to direct funding. And secondly, I will also want to ask about the staffing of IPs at this funding level. So definitely we'll be looking forward to more engagements with you as IP, especially through direct access to funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now back to you, Alok and Chase, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and very much appreciate the positive feedback on the work done and the work to be done, and also statements that from Germany that the budget seems to be reasonable. We appreciate that. On the question that we have received from Richard to amend the text, we have the additional amendment, so we will reflect that in the decision. And I guess it will be circulated as part of the co-chair summary that you would approve, and we will also do the revision on the document itself. On the question from Sandra, thank you very much for your feedback and our engagement and ready to approve the budget. On the cost share for especially on the lease, this time as discussed during the corporate budget for GEF as a whole, I guess that was day one, right? We have now managed to secure a much favorable term of the lease, and the physical footprint has increased because we just did not have enough space to accommodate all the functions. So, and we have tried to reflect the cost share based on the headcounts of the different units, and this is what we have come up with. And I do think that moving forward, we will continue to make sure that there is fair and equitable and based on data sharing of costs for items to be shared among the GEF Trust Fund, the LDCF and SCCF, the GBFF, as well as Adaptation Fund and the IEO. We will continue to do that. On questions that were coming from Tessa, the United States, thank you very much. So one of the things that's driving the budget increase, particularly for this fiscal year moving forward, is that we do actually need to start to get engaged in not just the enhanced implementation of the dedicated program outreach and servicing of the increased projects and programming. We also need to get started from the LDCF and SCCF on the next GEF 9 program strategy negotiations. And that requires additional personnel, and that also requires additional costs, because GEF 8 was an exception because all the meetings were held virtually, but we would imagine we would need to go back to GEF 7 and the previous situation where we would need to hold and dedicate resources for the development of the strategy negotiations as well as consultations with stakeholders. And so for that cost reasons, you will see increases in different budget lines accommodating those. On your question as to on the staffing, that's also part of the overall restructuring plan, and we have tried to expedite some of the recruitments in fiscal year 24 for the posts that were approved. And the end result is we were very happy that we were able to go through with the appointments, but the timing of the onboarding of the relevant staff that you also have to take into consideration their personal circumstances would end up impacting when the budget starts to kick in for these human resources costs. And what has happened is we're very happy to have the communication person on board. One more person that was approved in the fiscal year 24, that person is actually coming on board as of July 1. What that means is that we went through with the recruitment, the budget was allocated, but the actual work as well as the expenditure will only start to kick in from fiscal year 25. And we do have legitimate needs for us to be able to reinforce our staffing, given that if you look at the comparable funds as well as programming trends, the LDCF and SCCF are very, very low in terms of the staffing for the amount of programming that's been done historically speaking. Another element that I would like to point out is that we had dedicated program budget included in fiscal year 23 and 24. And in 24, we were really going to continue and finalize the first round of capacity building programs, which we managed to do. But for logistical and actually cost reasons, the workshop with the CIS in the Pacific and Indian Ocean, we just could not do this in person. And that ended up being done in the virtual format, divided into two, which worked very well. But that basically meant a significant cost underrun. And because the denominator for the LDCF and SCCF are rather low, those tend to manifest as pretty big percentage figures. But in terms of the actual budget, we're not necessarily talking about significant figures, especially compared to the GEF Trust Fund. So I hope that clarifies the questions that have been raised. And I will turn this back to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you. We will now continue with the list of speakers. The next in line is Ramon. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be in Spanish. En primer lugar, como España, queremos lanzar el mensaje de que nos complace haber participado en el diálogo ministerial durante la COP28 en Dubái como recientes donantes del Fondo de Países Menos Adelantados y del Fondo Especial de Cambio Climático. Nos alegramos de haber participado de estos recientes planes de trabajo muy significativos en volumen de recursos. Y simplemente queríamos destacar algunos logros en base al anterior Business Plan y sobre los que creemos que deberíamos seguir incidiendo en el próximo año fiscal. Destacamos la puesta en marcha de la primera ronda del Challenge Program del GEF 8 para impulsar soluciones innovadoras en adaptación del cambio climático. Creemos que se debe seguir trabajando en esta materia y fundamental contar con la involucración del sector privado. Queremos destacar también los talleres destinados a reforzar las capacidades de los países y que esos talleres, ese trabajo se ha hecho en coordinación con el Fondo Verde para el Clima. Queremos destacar que ese intercambio de información, esa experiencia compartida hace más robusto nuestro trabajo. Y finalmente seguir reforzando el trabajo en el marco de la visión a largo plazo sobre complementariedad, coherencia y colaboración entre el GEF y el Fondo Verde para el Clima. También incluiríamos a otros fondos multilaterales porque creemos que es la única manera de conseguir cambios transformacionales y aumentar la eficiencia y el impacto colectivo. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Ramón. I will now give the floor to Pakaban, followed by Emily. Pakaban, floor is yours.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate the GEF Secretariat for the preparation of the administrative budget and business plan for LDCF and SCCF, and I thank you for the informative presentations. We acknowledge that the LDCF and SCCF are very important and useful for us to be able to implement climate actions and adapt to climate change. We note that the specific efforts will be made to support and facilitate both LDCF and SCCF program by LDC and SIDS that have not accessed resource. Given that the national program has an initial ceiling of the 20 million for LDCF, we would like to know in the event that a country submit project document but is not accepted into the program, whether the remaining fund will be added up to the cap for the GEF 9. We congratulate the GEF Secretariat for providing capacity building to access the fund. However, we found that some countries in our constituent have not received or had access to the SCCF fund yet. So if possible, specific training or capacity building program on accessing the fund could be provided to the regions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to Emily. Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Noemi. Our constituency would also like to thank the Secretariat and the trustee for the budget and business plan, which we are ready to approve. And we also support the amendment to the decision text as proposed by Richard. And just one comment regarding the dedicated program, the dedicated programs, and specifically the one on communication. Our constituency would appreciate efforts to enhance the communication on the added value of the LDCF and SCCF among the various climate funds, given their niche role in supporting LDCs and SIDS. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Emily. And I don't see anyone else requesting the floor. So back to you, Chis, and Alok, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll quickly respond to the question from Spain and also from IPLC group regarding engagement of IPLCs and also private sector. Just wanted to share, as you saw in our presentation, the challenge program modality that the LDCF and SCCF has adopted since GEF 7, and then we scaled up in GEF 8 through the inclusive GEF Assembly challenge program, which we launched last year in run up to the GEF Assembly, and the challenge program for adaptation innovation. These two initiatives or modalities actually helped us engaging more directly with civil society organizations and indigenous peoples and local communities. And the Adaptation Innovation Challenge Program, as you know, it is dedicated to work, identify with the private sector some innovative adaptation solutions. So just wanted to share that through these two initiatives in GEF 8, we are engaging intensively, and most likely in the GEF 8 period, we will launch the second round of challenge program for adaptation innovation, which focuses on private sector engagement. I'll defer to Chiz for any other response. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alok, and thank you for the questions. Very quickly on the question from Pakavan in the access to the LDCF resources. So the initial cap for the LDCs, as you know, is $20 million per LDC, and we do take note that I think Laos and Cambodia might be very close to being done. Laos still has some room left, and I think there is a couple of other LDCs in the region that have yet to access the resources. So we will make sure to redouble our efforts so that in the remaining 2-year period for the GEF 8, all LDCs will come and access resources just like all LDCs did for the GEF 7 period. I don't recall for the LDCF, we have rejected any proposals. Happy to discuss, and perhaps there is a little bit of misunderstanding on the different support lines that may be available for different countries because we have multiple trust funds. In terms of the access to SCCF and opportunities, window A of the SCCF is for small island developing states, and window B is for technology transfer, innovation, and private sector. As requested, we're ready to offer any briefing as well as training sessions on what those access opportunities might be and what kinds of projects are coming through. So I think that's it in terms of the specific questions, and very much appreciate the overall support as well as enthusiasm.
Thank you very much, Alok and Chis. So this concludes the list of speakers. So back to you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Naomi and presenters as well as the council members for that contribution. So having exhausted the discussion, I will now call on the council members to adopt the decision indicated in the included in document GEF's plus LDCF SCCF 3606. No comment, then the decision is adopted. So this decision will reflect the changes suggested by Australia, and that will also be circulated in the co-chair summary that is going to be circulated to all the members here. So thank you so much, and then we go to the next agenda, 07, which is the work program and budget for the independent evaluation office of GEF under the LDCF and SCCF. So on that note, I would like to invite Ms. Pipita Patra and Ms. Anna Wee, or V, sorry, from the GEF IOD to introduce the document GEF plus LDCF, SCCF 36E01 FY25. So, Ms. Greta, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to present the Annual Evaluation Report 2024, the IEO Work Program for LDCF SCCF, and the IEO Budget for LDCF SCCF. Our work program, consistent with what the GEFSEC has presented, addresses the adaptation benefits, climate resilience, vulnerabilities, scaling up finance, and gender and innovation. We will be including a lot of information and relevant lessons and findings in the OPS 8 report coming to you next year. We didn't have a chance to present terminal evaluations last time around due to time constraints, but we do note and support the GEFSEC reported findings that the LDCF SCCF portfolio has produced very satisfactory outcomes in 92% of the projects. The one area that we did note challenges were in terms of sustainability for that cohort, where it was fewer than 50% with sustainability. And so our report had highlighted the need for paying special attention to sustainability. With this, I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Anna Weg, who leads the work on LDCF SCCF, our evaluation program. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Geeta. The Annual Evaluation Report 2024 is being presented to this council as an information document. Since the annual performance report has moved to reporting every other year, it was not done this year. The AER 2024 reports on the funds through a synthesis of LDCF, SCCF, relevant evidence from 5 recent IEO GEF Trust Fund evaluations that also included LDCF, SSCF projects. The evaluations reviewed are interventions in water security, which was presented to Council in June 2023, support to drylands, community-based approaches, learning from challenges, and support to climate information and early warning systems that were all presented to Council, the the GEF Trust Fund Council in February 2024. Together, these evaluations covered 759 projects, of which 118 are funded by the LDCF, 31 by SCCF, and 21 were multi-trust fund. The synthesis was done in line with the themes and levers of transformation outlined in the current GEF Climate Change Adaptation Programming Strategy for LDCF SSCF that covers 2022 to 26. The themes include agriculture, food security and health, water, nature-based solutions, and climate information and early warning systems. The levers of transformation include policy coherence and mainstreaming of climate adaptation, strengthened governance for adaptation, and knowledge exchange and collaboration. The synthesis also considered cross-cutting priorities such as gender and private sector engagement. The review draws examples from LDCF, SSCF, and multi-trust fund projects, as well as GEF Trust Fund projects. Examples from GEF Trust Fund projects are based on adaptation co-benefits, in line with the adaptation themes and transformational levers related to LDCF, SSCF. The main takeaways of the synthesis relevant to LDCF, SSCF programming includes water security and access in agriculture are essential for food security, economic stability, and environmental sustainability. Holistic approaches in agriculture, such as agroecology and agroforestry, to restore degraded lands, boost agricultural productivity, soil health, biodiversity, and climate resilience. As to integrated water management, ecosystem-based and community-involved strategies are crucial for sustainable water management, particularly in adaptation to climate change. There are many examples demonstrating the effectiveness of community involvement in achieving sustainable water management goals. Climate change information and early warning systems are fundamental to mitigating climate-related hazards. For long-term resilience, it is essential to integrate climate information and early warning systems with disaster risk reduction and climate adaptation strategies. Strengthening policy coherence and governance is key to adapting to climate change and managing environmental risks. Policy misalignment can lead to significant hurdles in project implementation. Land degradation neutrality methods and programmatic and phased approaches have been used to foster policy coherence. Women are increasingly involved in decision, excuse me, in decision-making processes and project activities, and promoting gender equality in environmental projects yields socioeconomic benefits. Private sector engagement has been limited. However, opportunities exist for involvement in resilience enhancement and multi-stakeholder initiatives in water security and climate information and early warning systems. Now for the work program. In fiscal year 25, the IEO completed the GEF support to climate information and early warning systems evaluation, which we presented to Council in February 2024. And we also prepared the AER 2024, which I just presented. In fiscal year 25, the IEO will prepare the annual evaluation report. It will assess terminal evaluations of completed projects submitted since AER 2023 in line with the APR biannual schedule and will report on performance, including outcomes and sustainability, quality of M&E, gender, and vulnerabilities addressed. The IEO will update the 2020 LDCF and 2021 program evaluations and focus on achievement of the fund's objectives, responses to COP guidance, and policy coherence. The program evaluation will do an in-depth review of the LDCF SSCF Challenge Program for adaptation that was launched in 2019. Finally, the IEO will include adaptation to climate change in LDCF SSCF in OPS 8, as Geeta mentioned. OPS 8 will bring in evaluative evidence from the AERs completed since OPS 7, and evidence from the LDCF program evaluation, the thematic climate information and early warning systems evaluation, and from GEF Trust Fund evaluations that have also included LDCF SSCF projects done during GEF 8. Now I will hand over to Geeta for the budget.
Thank you, Anna. So the IEO has a multi-annual budget of about 1.2 million for the 4-year work program 24-27 for LDCF SECF. For FY24, the council approved a budget of 339,500, and we estimate that 90% of this budget will be used by the end of the fiscal year. Based on the multi-annual nature of the budget, any undisbursed funds from the FY24 budget will be rolled over into the FY25 budget. And we estimate that 347,788 will cover the activities planned for FY25. The amount is within the approved envelope 1.26927 for FY24 to 27. I just wanted to highlight that the evaluation work of this fund benefits from synergies of the work that we do with the GEF Trust Fund in terms of methodologies, in terms of expertise across staffing, the process of review of terminal evaluations for closed projects, and in terms of combining missions with GEF projects. We've also started working on comparing the performance of the LDCF, SECF projects with adaptation fund projects that have now come to closure. So you'll be seeing more of those comparisons across similar projects that are carried out by the adaptation fund. Thank you very much. Now for the recommended council decision.
Are you done?
Thank you. Over to you, co-chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anna and Greta, for that presentation. I will now open the floor for council members for any comments or input into this presentation. So I'll ask Amy to support in that regard.
Thank you, co-chair. I'll now give the floor to Barbara. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. Canada greatly values the work of the Independent Evaluation Office. We believe the delivery of the 2025 work plan will surely lead to important insights for the next programming strategy. And it's a timely, the nature of the work plan is timely and appropriate. Canada supports the proposed work plan and annual budget for the IEO under this section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I'll now give the floor to Tessa. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So first of all, we'd like to express our support for this proposed work program and budget. We also want to express our appreciation for the annual evaluation report. We see this evaluation and dissemination of lessons learned as essential to improving the efficacy and efficiency of the work under the LDCF and SCCF. Promoting the application of lessons learned ensures that countries, implementers, funds can benefit from their own past experiences and the experiences of others. And we see this as being so important to the acceleration of adaptation action going forward. So we look forward to seeing how these findings manifest in future project proposals and in project implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else requesting the floor at this point. So I believe, Gita, Anna, this concludes our list of participants. So back to you.
Just to say thank you for the support for the work program and the budget, and we will come to you with quality evaluations next year. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. I think this is a wonderful ending of the whole thing. So I will now call on the council to adopt the decision that is included in document F/EF SCCF 36/E/41. Okay, so the decision is approved. Thank you so much for all the effort. Yeah. So the think now I'll hand over the chair back to the you and chair.
Thank you so much, Dauda, for that. And our last agenda item for LDCF, SACF has to do with other businesses. Since we don't have any other businesses request by any council members, with this, I conclude the 36 LDCF, SACF council meeting. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we enter the final stretch for this week council meetings with the summary of the chairs. I will now open formally the 67th GEF Council Trust Fund with the summary of the co-chairs. As you all know very well, we sent a text last night, and the idea is that today with Naomi, we will go through the document, verifying that everything is okay to what was agreed during these during the 67 GEF Council meeting. So I will pass it over to Noemi, which will be using the screens so we can be able to approve through groups of paragraphs the text that was provided to you all as the summary of the co-chairs for the 67th GEF Council meeting. Over to you, Noemi.
Thank you, Chair. So as you were very well mentioned, so I sent last night a first draft of the summary of the co-chairs, then this morning an updated one on decision 24, paragraph 41 on the streamlining. So this is the one that we will be reviewing right now. I won't go into detail because you already have it in your emails. So I will just name the decisions, the paragraphs, and if someone has a comment, please request the floor and I will give it. So I will start with the first 4 paragraphs, which is the opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, and the report of the chairperson and relations with conventions and other international institutions. I don't see any comments, so now I will start with the decisions that have been approved, starting with decision 22/2024 on the work program for the GEF Trust Fund. which comprises paragraphs from the 6th until the 35th. Okay, so we will now move with decision 23/2024, GEF business plan and corporate budget for fiscal year 25. Thank you. We will now continue with decision 24/2024, streamlining the GEF project cycle, report from the working group on the streamlining process. No comments, so now moving to decision 25/2024, gap analysis of GEF policies and key social inclusion issues, timetable for policy actions. Decision 26/2024, evaluation of co-financing in the GEF and the management response. Decision 27/2024, evaluation of the Global Wildlife Program. Decision 28/2024, assessing portfolio level risk at the GEF and management response. Decision 29/2024, 8th comprehensive evaluation of the GEF OPS 8 approach paper. Decision 30/2024, IEO 2025 work program and budget. Decision 31/2024, relations with conventions and other international institutions. Decision 32/2024, guidelines for the preparation of the review of the implementation of Article 7 of the Minamata Convention. Decision 33/2024, report of the Selection and Review Committee, reappointment of GEF CEO and chairperson. Decision 34/2024, report of the Selection and Review Committee, performance review. Decision 35/2024, report of the Selection and Review Committee, calendar of performance reviews. Decision 36/2024, report of the Selection and Review Committee, membership of the Selection and Review Committee. Decision 37/2024, other business. I don't see any comments, so I believe we can move forward with this summary of the co-chairs. So thank you very much. And now that I have the microphone, I will continue with the summary of the co-chairs of the GBFF.
Please, yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just as before, I circulated this document last night. I will briefly go over it without reading every decision. So the first 4 paragraphs is basically the procedures, opening of the meeting, adoption of the agenda, and then we will go with the decisions approved. Okay, so we'll start with the first decision, decision GBFF 04/2024, work program for Global Biodiversity Framework Fund. I see no comments. So second decision, GBFF 05/2024, terms of reference for advisory groups and auxiliary body. I don't see any comment, Chair, so back to you.
Thanks, Noemi. And now we go to the summary of the LDCF SACF. Can you please guide the council with the summary?
I believe we haven't sent it, right? Cheese?
So the LDCF SACF will be sent to everyone here in a couple of minutes. And we can probably take a 10 minutes coffee break while some read and some take some coffee. Thank you.
Good morning. So we will give some 3 more minutes to review the document before we go back to session. So 3 more minutes. Thank you. Good morning. So now I'll invite everyone to take their seats so we can begin with this last agenda item to review the summary of the co-chairs. Thank you. All right, so thank you everyone for your patience. Some minutes ago, the summary was still in the oven, but now it's fresh in your emails. And we will briefly review it to see if there is any comments from your side. So I will start with the first 2 paragraphs on the council procedures, basically opening up the meeting, adoption of the agenda. Are there any comments under these 2 paragraphs? I don't see any, so I will continue with the decisions that were approved during the council. The first one, decision LDCF SCCF 4/2024, work program for the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund that comprises paragraph 3 and 4. I don't see any comments, so I will continue with decision LDCF SCCF 5/2024 fiscal year 23 annual monitoring review of the least developed countries fund and special climate change fund, comprising paragraphs 5 and 6. I don't see any comments, so decision LDCF SCCF 6/2024 progress report on the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. Decision LDCF SCCF 5/2024 fiscal year 25 administrative budget and business plan for the least developed countries fund and the special climate change fund. Decision LDCF SCCF 8/2024 fiscal year 25 work program and budget for the Independent Evaluation Office of the GEF under LDCF and SCCF. And then we have 3 last paragraphs and other business, the joint summary of the council co-chairs and the closure of the meeting. Any comments on these last 3 paragraphs? I don't see any, so I will go back to the co-chair, and then the chair can close. So Daura, Mr. Co-chair, back to you.
So with this, the 3 different councils has been able to approve the summary of each of the councils, GEF Trust Fund, 67 GEF Trust Fund, 36 LDCF SCCF Trust Fund, and the second GBFF Trust Fund. Let me pass it over to my co-chair, who will be doing some concluding remarks. Daura, you got the floor. Seems like he's still having a coffee. Just give us a second.
Okay. Thank you so much, CEO. It's a pleasure. Are you getting me now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this important.
Dauda, can you please turn on your camera?
We still don't see you, Mr. Co-chair. Okay, now we see you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you so much, CEO, for giving me this floor and giving me the opportunity to be part of this important meeting. At least I'll first like to make this conclude remark for this important meeting. And I feel privileged and honored to be given this opportunity to serve as a co-chair to this important meeting. In that, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the CEO and the leadership and his entire wonderful team of management and staff at the GEF for the support and hard work in organizing this important meeting. And also, investing in our planet across the globe to higher heights through collective approach and involvement by ensuring everybody is involved and ensure that funds that are provided by the donors are put into good use for saving the planet that we all depend on for our assistance. And thank you so much for the hard work. For the distinguished council members, as I reflect the deliberation from Monday through Thursday today, as we conclude this important council meeting, the decision taken over the past few days showed all of us have a common objective, irrespective of our economic and geographical status, which is save the planet from all kinds of problems facing it today for ourselves and the future generation of this country. From climate change to biodiversity loss, land degradation, deforestation, waste, chemical pollution, all kinds of problems are facing our planet. And all of us have all of them have negative impact on our health and also the quality of life as humans and other God-created creatures. What is very clear to us all is the fact that environmental challenges of facing this planet does not recognize boundaries, nor does it take permission or visa to enter into another country. As a matter of fact, it does not distinguish the polluter and the pollutants or the recipients, as both of us serve as victims. So therefore, addressing the global environmental challenges, which require a systematic approach and collective responsibility of it, and also the opportunity to do our best to contribute positively to meet this common problem that meet this planet for a better place for all of us. As I keenly follow the staff report presented before the council, I've realized that council members, there are a lot to do in saving this planet for future damage, for further damage. For instance, our biodiversity, many more are seriously under threat. And more importantly, they all depend on us as humans to save their planet. The report interestingly suggests how we can work together to solve these challenges facing our planet. Distinguished council members, in life as humans, our contribution to this world as we live can be categorized into two: one, mortal, and two, immortal people. Mortal people are those who die and never be remembered for the contribution they have made in this world, whether in their communities, their countries, or the world over. While immortal people or individuals are those who are actually dead but never die because of the positive contribution they have made on mankind to this earth within their communities, nations, and the world over. So as we leave this important 67 GEF, 36 LDCF, SCCF, and second biodiversity framework council meeting in DC, let us reflect on how we'll be remembered during this and after our existence. Let us look at the environmental issues as a system or a small village where everyone is interconnected and no boundaries available. I therefore challenge all of us, both individual and collectively, to demonstrate commitment towards meeting our various consequences obligation in protecting and preserving the environment. Collectively, we can make a difference in our various countries and the world at large to save our environment as humans and other God-created creatures that need this planet to survive. I thank you all for your kind attention, and I wish you all the best. Chair.
With Dauda's reflections, I want to formally close the 67 GEF Trust Fund Council meeting, the 36 LDCF SCCF Council meeting, and the second GBFF Council meetings. My congratulations to all council members, alternate, and support staff. Also, my full recognition for the work that the GEF Secretariat staff, IO staff, and support staff that gave us, so we can have the opportunity to have these council meetings for the last time outside the personal auditorium, of course. I want to wish you safe travels to every single one. I know that I will be seeing many of you in COP16, in UNCCD COP15, and in COP29, UNFCCC COP29. We'll be very, very active in all of those COPs, and very much willing to support you in any possible ways in your tasks and endeavors in those different COPs. So thank you so much. And with this, we conclude all the 3 GEF trust funds. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
So before we leave, we would like to invite you all participants to come here to the head table so we can have a family picture. And also a reminder to leave the translation devices in your table. So with that, oh, and we will have an early lunch today, a brunch, let's call it that way. We will be ready to host you at 11:30 in both the lunch rooms that you already know. So with that, we invite you here to take the family picture. So we're waiting here, so you can just feel free to come in the other side of this main table. So the photographers are asking if everyone could fit themselves between the columns. That would be great, so everyone can be in the picture.
How about the first?